Hey y'all, welcome back. On tonight's homework, we are continuing to solve linear equations. However, now we're going to have to set them up in the first place. So all these problems are going to be set up as a stated problem or a word problem where we have to act as a translator to go from English into algebra. So as we go through these problems, I'm going to read them kind of slow so that we can really break down how to know how the equation is set up. And then hopefully the actual solving part of it is not too bad. The focus here is not really so much on the algebra to get to the answer, but rather I want to make sure that you can set these up. And yeah, it's good if you can solve them as well, but again, our focus here is going to be on taking our time, reading the question slowly, and really trying to figure out how to set it up. Number one says, the sum of a number x and 12 is 20. So looking for keywords here, sum is a word that's indicating that we want to add two things together. So as soon as you see that phrase, the sum of, that tells you that we're going to add the next couple of things that are stated. So the sum of a number x and 12. Okay, so we have a number x and 12. Those are the two things we're going to add up. So we've got x plus 12. We discussed in class that anytime you see the word is, that's your indicator that you're going to write an equal sign. So is, and then finally 20. So we have x plus 12 equals 20, and now we can just go to work trying to solve this thing. So we've got minus 12 on both sides. We want to get rid of that 12. This is just going to be a one-step equation, and our answer is x equals 8. You always want to go back and kind of reread the problem too to make sure that your answer makes sense. The sum of 8 and 12 sure is 20. Number two, twice. Okay, so that means we're going to double something. We're going to multiply by 2. The sum of, so right away I'm going to start setting this up. Twice, we're going to multiply something by 2, and that something is the sum of, okay, so we're going to add two things together. The sum of what? The sum of y and 3. So the sum of y and 3. Twice the sum is 2 times that sum. And then just like the previous problem, we have the word is, which indicates where we want to put the equal sign. So it is 16. So equals 16. And now we can go ahead and solve this like we normally would. We'll start by using the distributive property, 2 times y and 2 times 3, to get 2y plus 6 equals 16. Subtract 6 on both sides to get rid of that 6 on the left-hand side. 16 minus 6 is 10, so we get 2y equals 10. And finally, we want to divide both sides by 2. So we end up here with y equals 5. Number 3 says the difference between w and 22 equals 3 times w. So the difference is a term that's indicating subtraction. So just like sum, the word sum, sum, refers to addition, difference is going to refer to subtraction. So that means we're definitely going to be subtracting something here. So the difference, we're going to subtract two things, and now as we read more of the problem, we're going to figure out what is it we're actually subtracting. It says the difference between w and 22. So w minus 22 equals 3 times 2. 3 times w. So times here indicates multiplication. So we have 3w. So from here, we're going to subtract 3w from both sides to try to get all those w's on the same side. 1w minus 3w is negative 2w. Negative 2w minus 22 equals 0. And now we've got a nice little two-step equation. After adding 22 to both sides, we're going to have negative 2w equals 22. And then finally, we want to divide both sides by negative 2 to get our final answer W equals negative 11. And feel free to use your calculator on any of these problems. Anytime you're doing arithmetic, especially with negatives and fractions, definitely want to check in the calculator, make sure you're doing it right. Number 4 says 4 times the number x is equivalent to the sum of 2 times x and 14. Okay, so 4 times. So 4 times the number x. So right here, 4 times the number x, we can rewrite that or write it as 4x is equivalent to, that tells us we want an equal sign there. The sum of, okay, so we see that word sum again. That means we're going to have an addition. We're going to add two things together. So I'm going to actually just take a minute and leave a little space there and write that plus because I know that we're going to add two things together. The sum of 2 times x, that's 2x, and 14. Once we got it set up, we want to subtract 2x from both sides. And then we want to divide both sides by 2. So x equals 7. Number 5 says the sum of a and the product of 3 times a is 12. So the sum of, you see that sum word, that means we're definitely going to have something being added. Okay, so the sum of a and the product 3 times a. So the product here is the 3 times a little bit of a redundancy there. But the two things that we're going to be adding are a and 3 times a. Is means equals. And then 12 is just, well, it's 12. So here we've got two terms, both on the left-hand side that have an a. So we can combine like terms. A plus 3a is 4a, because when you just have a variable by itself, it is implied to be just one of those variables. So 1a plus 3a is 4a. And then we can divide both sides by 4. A is 3. Number 6 says the sum of 3 consecutive integers is 75. Find the integers. Okay, well, we have the sum of 3 consecutive integers. Consecutive integers are integers that are right next to each other. So for instance, like 2, 3, and 4 are consecutive. If we want to represent those algebraically, if we're going to let the smallest number be x, the next consecutive number would be x plus 1. Like, for example, if the smallest number is 5, the next consecutive number would be 6. It's one more than that. And then the next consecutive number would be x plus 2. So these three numbers will be consecutive. They're one right after the next. It says the sum of these 3 consecutive numbers, so we want to add these up, is 75. So we've got 3 consecutive numbers equals 75. Now we want to make sure that we're answering the question that's being asked here. So as we solve this equation, x plus x, if we combine the like terms here, x, we got 3 x's, and then 1 plus 2 is 3. As we solve this equation, we are only going to get one of the 3 integers because we're only going to have one number for x. 3x equals 72. And then if I divide both of these by 3, I'm going to get x equals, what would that be, 24, I think? Yeah. So I don't want you to be done here because it's not just asking for the smallest integer. This 24 is really just this first number, right? It's that first integer. But it's asking for all 3 of them, just to make sure that all 3 consecutive integers add up to 75. So if x is 24, then x plus 1, which would be the next one, is 25. And the next one, x plus 2, would be 26. And if you add these up, you'll find, sure enough, they do add up to 75. Now let's take a look at the kinds of word problems that you might see on the TSI A2 exam. So these might be a little bit more involved than the ones that we set up here, but I think that if you read it closely and set up the equation, you should still be okay. Number 6 says Sawyer bought 5 books. Lincoln bought 4 books and an $18 school bag. Together, Sawyer and Lincoln spent $45. If each book cost the same amount, how much did each book cost? So right away, you want to identify what are you looking for. In this case, the cost of each book. So I'm going to let X be the cost of each book. And they all cost the same amount, so that's safe to call that X. Now let's try to set up our equation based on what is stated. It says Sawyer bought 5 books. We have a total of 5 books. And then Lincoln bought another 4 books. So we have 5 books, each costing X dollars, plus 4 books costing X dollars. And then we have just this extra $18 school bag. So we're going to spend an extra $18 there. The total that they spent was $45. That's the total amount. So equals 45. Now, we can go ahead and solve this, and we'll solve it algebraically. In fact, let me just do that quickly. But I also want to point out, so here, if we can combine these 5x plus 4x is 9x. I also want to point out that once you have this set up, you can also just use the answer choices to your advantage. Let me try to make that a little easier to read there. You can also just use the answer choices to your advantage. If you see that your answer choices are $3, $3.50, $4.50, $5, here, I'm trying to talk and write at the same time. It's not going very well. 20, what would that be? I'm going to use a calculator here. 27. Anyway, what I was saying is you can use the answer choices to try to figure it out without having to go through the algebra. And just rewrite this and divide by 9. We're going to get our answer here. Oh, not divide by 3. Got to stop trying to talk and write at the same time here. We got x equals 3. So we know our answer is 3. But what you could do is you could take each one of these answer choices and just calculate how much the total would be. And if it's not 45, you know the answer is wrong. So if I don't know why you would start with D, but just as an example, if I want to test out $5, I can just do 5 times 5 plus 4 times 5 plus 18. And if that doesn't equal 45, which it shouldn't, then I know that that's not the answer. And you could go through each answer choice and just try to find it that way. But you still are going to have to kind of set it up. So our answer is 3 here. Number 7 says there are exactly 40 markers in a box. If X markers are removed, which of the following represents the number of markers left in the box? So here you don't actually have to solve anything. You just have to set up the expression that it's saying. So you start with 40 markers and you remove X markers from the box. So we're going to subtract X, and that's about it. Number 8 says in the equation below, T represents the boiling point of water in degrees Fahrenheit. H represents the height above sea level. If T is 207 degrees, what is the value of H? So here we're going to replace T with 207 and rewrite this equation as 207 equals 212 minus H over 550. We do need to solve this, although, again, you could use the answer choices again, like plug in 550 into H. See, does this equal 207? If it doesn't, try the next one. Plug in 1,100 into H. See if that equals 207, and so forth. And honestly, that's probably going to be an easier way to work this one out. But if you do want to solve it traditionally, I'll go through those steps here. You would subtract 212 from both sides. 207 minus 212. Let's see, 207 minus 212 is negative 5. So we get negative 5 equals negative H divided by 550. And we can multiply both sides by negative 550 to get our answer. So let's see here, negative 5 times negative 550 is 2,750. So our answer is D. But again, you might find a problem like this easier by just plugging in these numbers into H. Like you It might be a little bit more time consuming because you do have to check all the answers, but let's say you're going to check C. You're just going to plug that number into H and then just use your calculator, 212 minus this fraction. And if it's not 207, that's not right. Number 9 says the profit formula below is for a company's new product, where X is the number of units the product sold and P is the profit. How much profit was made on a sale of 1,400 units? So the 1,400 units is the number of units. So that's going to be our X. We're going to put that number right here, and I'm just going to rewrite this as P equals 3/7 times 14,000 minus 300. The P, the profit, is what you're looking for, and that is actually already isolated. So we don't need to use any properties of equality or really rearrange this at all. We're just going to type in that expression into the calculator. So I've got 3/7 times 14,000 minus 300 is 5,700. So yeah, definitely use the calculator there. You don't have to actually do any algebra. You're just substituting a number into X and then computing that. And don't do that by hand, please. You're not going to want to do 3/7 times 14,000 minus 300 on paper. Most likely you'll probably make an error. You just please use the calculator on that one. All right. Our last problem for today. Number 10, if the length L, so that's the length of a rectangle, is, here we go. Now this is where we really got to pay close attention. 4 less than twice the width W. So the length is 4 less than. You got to be real careful with the less than. Like, let's say if you have $10 and I have 2 less than that, then I have $8. And that's because 10 minus 2 is 8. But the way that it's worded makes it look like you're subtracting the other way. But 4 less than twice W is actually 2W, because that's twice W, minus 4. Okay, again, if you start with 2W and you have 4 less than that, you're going to take away 4. So this is the one, this whole less than thing is really the only phrase that you really got to be careful with, because it's going to read as though it's 4 minus 2W. But whenever you see like some number less than something else, that means you're actually subtracting that initial number. So here it'd be like 2W minus 4. So our answer is B. And that about does it for tonight's homework. As always, please reach out if you have any questions. But otherwise, y'all have a great day, and I'll see you next time.